Between 1993 and 1997, RZA was untouchable. He just couldn't miss producing classic album after classic album. He created a raw cinematic sound that he could reshape for each artist. From GZA's cold precision to ODB's wild chaos, this was RZA's untouchable run, 5 years that changed hip-hop forever. Everything starts with Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. Released in 1993, it was Wu-Tang Clan's debut album, and it didn't sound like anything else on the radio. Wu-Tang Clan was a 9-man crew from Staten Island united under RZA's vision. He was in full control of the sound. Every drum, every sample, every mix, all his work. Only the mastering was left to someone else. The beats were rough and unpolished, the samples chopped straight from Kung Fu Flicks and soul records.
You must think first, right? Before you move.
RZA made the imperfections part of the sound, creating something dark, dusty, and completely new. 36 Chambers didn't blow up immediately. It started slow, peaking at number 41 on the Billboard 200, but word spread fast. The raw energy, the mystery, the sound no one had heard before. Within a couple years it went platinum and became a classic. Today it's remembered as one of the greatest hip-hop albums ever made. But RZA was just getting started. Once Wu-Tang was established, RZA began crafting solo albums for the members, a plan he had mapped out from the very beginning. The first to drop was Method Man's T-Cal, released in late 1994, just 1 year after 36 Chambers. RZA again produced pretty much the entire album himself, giving it a dark and murky sound, perfectly matching Method Man's smooth but rugged delivery.
I came to bring the pain, hardcore from the brain. Let's go inside my astral plane.
Critics at the time praised both RZA's production and Meth's charisma. The album went platinum, reaching number 4 on the Billboard 200. The album solidified Method Man as a solo star and RZA as one of the most innovative producers in hip-hop. Even though the album was a success by every metric, it still isn't usually placed among the absolute top-tier masterpieces of RZA's golden years. The best was still to come. In 1995, RZA kept his grind up, producing not 1 but 3 Wu-Tang solo albums. The first came from the Clan's wildest member, Old Dirty Bastard, with Return to the 36 Chambers, the dirty version. It was chaotic, funny, raw, and unpredictable, just like ODB. Where T-Cal was dark and focused, Return to the 36 Chambers sounded completely unhinged, full of dissonant pianos, offbeat rhythms, and ODB's half-sung, half-yelled delivery. With the album, RZA proved he could mold the Wu-Tang sound into completely different shapes without ever losing its identity. The album debuted at number 7 on the Billboard 200, earned a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Album, and even went platinum in 2019. Critics and fans praised ODB's originality and RZA's versatile production. Even if the album isn't considered among the all-time greats, it was still a major success and another milestone in RZA's run. Next up was Only Built for Cuban Linx, also known as the Purple Tape. Released in August of 1995, this was Raekwon's debut solo album, and it played like a full-length movie. Ray as the star, Ghostface Killah as his co-star, and RZA as the director behind the boards. RZA handled all of the production himself, crafting a slower, more polished, and cinematic sound than anything Wu-Tang had done before. He used strings, pianos, and samples from Kung Fu Flicks and Mafia movies. The album debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200 and number 2 on the R&B/hip-hop chart. It went gold just months later and eventually went platinum in 2020. But more than the numbers, it was the vision, the storytelling, the world building that made it legendary. The album is also regarded as one of the pioneers of mafioso rap. Critics and fans immediately recognized it as something special, praising Ray's storytelling and RZA's cinematic production. Even within Wu-Tang's catalog, Cuban Linx stands out. It wasn't just a rap album, it was a blueprint for how cinematic and vivid hip-hop could be. By late 1995, RZA had already produced 2 solo albums that year, but he still had one more left in him. RZA's Liquid Swords. If Cuban Linx was a crime film, Liquid Swords was a samurai film, precise, philosophical, and deadly. RZA, the oldest member, who is often praised as the most lyrical in the group, brought razor-sharp storytelling, and RZA gave him a sound to match, haunting strings, dusty snares, and eerie dialogue from the kung fu film Shogun Assassin.
That was the night everything changed.
Sometimes you gotta fasten.
Every track felt like it existed in a cold world, dark, philosophical, and dangerous. The album didn't chase radio play, but it still went gold and became one of the most critically acclaimed Wu-Tang releases ever, eventually going platinum 2 decades later. Critics and fans praised RZA's complex, sharp lyricism and RZA's increasingly refined production, especially how he could tailor his beats to each member. Even after all this time, Liquid Swords is still seen as one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. By late 1996, RZA's solo project streak continued with Ironman, the long-awaited debut from Ghostface Killah. The album blended the hard edges of Cuban Linx with a warmer, more soulful sound, drawing heavily from 70s soul records and blaxploitation films.
I put trademarks around your fucking eye.
Ghostface turned pain, family, and street life into something raw and soulful, pushing the Wu sound into new territory. The album heavily featured Raekwon and Capadonna, whose chemistry with Ghostface gave the record its backbone. Still, Ghost stood apart with his stream of consciousness delivery, emotional, unpredictable, and packed with vivid detail. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and went platinum. Critics praised RZA's evolving production, which was darker and more melodic than before, and Ghost's balance of toughness and heart. Ironman marked the 3rd masterpiece in a row for the clan, all released within just over a year, alongside Cuban Linx and Liquid Swords. Decades later, all 3 are still celebrated as some of the greatest hip-hop albums ever made. What makes this story even crazier is that during this whole period, RZA's basement, where he produced nearly all of these albums, kept flooding. Hundreds of beats were lost, and even a full album, Inspector Deck's debut Uncontrolled Substance, was wiped out. If you want to hear more about that story, check out the video I made on it. In 1997, RZA and the clan regrouped for Wu-Tang Forever. After a streak of solo classics, the entire clan came back together for a double album that felt like both a victory lap and an evolution. It was bigger in every way, bigger ideas, bigger production, and a new sense of polish. RZA had moved from his grimy basement sound to something almost symphonic.
March of the wooden soldiers, C-Cypher punks couldn't hold us. 1,000 men rushing in, not one was sober.
The kung fu grit was still there, but now it felt grand. The album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, selling over 600,000 copies in its first week, and eventually went quadruple platinum. Critics praised the album's ambition, and no one could deny its massive scale. The Wu were no longer just street poets, they were global icons. Wu-Tang Forever marked the end of RZA's legendary 5-year stretch, a run that redefined hip-hop production, turned 9 rappers into icons, and proved that underground sound could conquer the mainstream. Decades later, that streak still stands as one of the greatest creative runs in music history. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to support the channel, consider donating. Even $1 goes a long way. These videos take a lot of time to research and edit, so every bit of support is greatly appreciated.